Imagine an ordinary pinch of salt scattered on the threshold of a house in ancient Greece meant not just protection from evil spirits. It was a gesture of strength, faith, and sacred connection with the world. The ancient Greeks believed that everyday objects could be bridges to the divine, and salt is one of the most powerful such bridges. In their understanding, salt is not just a food or a seasoning, it is a symbol of purity, incorruptibility, and connection between worlds. It contains the power of the earth and the ocean, the two elements from which all life arose. That is why it was used in purification rituals, at sacrifices, and as a protective amulet. Salt was placed at the entrance to the house, hung in the small bags around the children's necks, and poured into the fire during prayers. And it was not a superstitious habit, but a conscious action filled with meaning. I ask for protection. I attract the light. I keep the balance. Today, when we live in a world of technology and haste, we often forget that spirituality is not out there in high books and secret rituals. She's right here, in our kitchen, in gestures, in the intentions, and understanding salt as a sacred element is the key to bringing back a sense of wonder into everyday life. We are used to seeing salt as something ordinary, but let's change the angle. Imagine that every time you salt your food, you participate in an ancient ritual. You are continuing a tradition that goes back thousands of years. You are doing the same thing that Pythagoras, Hippocrates, and the priests did in the temples of Athena. The Greek salt magic was based on the belief that everything that enters or touches the body must be pure, harmonious, and light-bearing. That is why salt was added not only to food, but also to water for ablutions, ointments, and even ink for letters, so that the words they wrote would carry truth and power. Interesting fact, philosophers used salt as a metaphor for internal discipline. Seneca said that just as salt sharpens the taste of food, so the mind, cleansed of passions, sharpens the perception of life. A mind seasoned with virtue is true strength. In ancient gymnasiums where young men hardened their bodies and spirits, salt was used after training to rub into the skin. It was not a simple hygiene product, it was a ritual. I'm purifying myself. I relieve myself of fatigue and tension. I'm getting my strength back. Tactile contact with salt symbolized a return to oneself, to one's essence. Even in love rituals, salt played an important role. Young women hung small bags of salt over their beds, believing that it would strengthen their feelings and protect them from jealousy and evil tongues. And if the couple was fighting, the grandmothers advised, salt the water and wash the floor. All the bad things will go away. We may think, but it's just salt. And that's exactly what makes it amazing. The most ordinary, affordable, priceless, and at the same time, magical. Like a breath, like the sun, like love. Salt is a symbol of everything simple but powerful. The ancient Greeks said that what we do every day shapes our destiny. If we use even simple things with respect and intention every day, they begin to work for us. And the salt in this is the perfect example. Imagine a woman who sprinkles a pinch of salt on her doorstep every morning. She does this not because she is afraid of evil, but because she remembers that her home is a fortress, her space is a temple, and she is the mistress of this temple. That's the power. Men going on a hike or a trade trip took a bag of salt with them, sometimes along with the land from his native yard. It was their reminder, I'm not alone. The house is always with me. My roots are strong. It's like carrying a piece of your heart with you. If you feel anxious or exhausted, try an ancient ritual. Stand with your bare feet, take salt in your palms, and say, I'm going back to myself. I'm leaving everything that's not mine. I am the light. This is not magic in the usual sense. It is an act of inner choice. Modern science confirms that conscious actions with simple objects really affect the psyche. They ground, soothe, and structure. What the ancients did as a ritual, psychologists today call an anchor, a point that brings us back to the moment. A simple example. Imagine that every time you put a pinch of salt in a saucepan, you think, I'm adding strength, health, and light to this meal for those who will eat it. It turns ordinary cooking into prayer, into magic, and you become the wizard of your life. In Greek temples, there were vessels with salt and water for purification before entering. People dipped their fingers and touched their hearts. The water washed away the fuss. The salt reminded, you are a part of the world. You're important. You deserve to be here. Don't we need it today? When the Greeks held feasts or sacrifices to the gods, salt was necessarily placed on the altar. It was a sign of respect. The gods didn't need food, but they accepted the gesture. Salt said, I remember who I am. I am grateful. I am in league with the world. Even in death, salt played a role. It was sprinkled on the body to protect the soul in the transition between worlds. This act was a symbol. You leave clean. You deserve peace. Salt became a guide from the world of the living to the world of eternity. And if you think about how much is sacred in this simple crystal structure, she reminds us that magic is not a performance. It's respect, intention, presence, and salt is like a mirror. It shows what you came with on this day and what you are ready to give to the world. In Greek myths, the symbol of salt as truth is often found. Salt does not tolerate lies. Its purity exposes the essence. In magical practices, it was said, if you want to know the truth, sprinkle salt and observe. People believed that crystals could catch lies and reveal the truth. This is why salt was often used in purification rituals. If there was a quarrel, resentment, or illness in the house, the floor was sprinkled with salt, left overnight, and in the morning, swept away and thrown away. Salt, like a wise grandmother, took away all the negativity, leaving only light. Today, we forgot how important this simple practice is. We clean so that it looks clean. What about inner purity? The aura of the house, the mood of the family, the energy of the morning kitchen, all this can be cleaned in the same ancient ways. Imagine a ritual. You take a pinch of salt, walk around the house clockwise saying, joy lives here, there is laughter here, love grows here. Simple, yes, effective, more than enough, and you don't have to spend a dime. In the Greek tradition, salt also symbolized a contract. The two sides sat down at the table, ate bread and salt, and this was considered an indestructible union. To violate such an agreement is to invite trouble. Salt is like a seal, like an oath. We can take this into our lives. For example, every time you have lunch with someone, think, I'm in league with this person. I'm giving him the go-ahead. This small inner effort makes the relationship deeper and the food tastier. There are still beliefs in Greek villages. If someone leaves home in a bad mood, they throw a pinch of salt after him. This is not aggression. This is protection. May the salt take away the evil and the heart remain pure. Think about how you can apply it today. For example, If you are escorting a loved one on a difficult trip or an important day, you can mentally sprinkle salt in front of him and say, "Go in peace. You're protected. You are loved." This is an ancient form of blessing. Even the Greeks wore salt in their clothes. Small bags with crystals were sewn inside clothes, especially for children. It was a protection against the evil eye, envy, and diseases. Salt is like a shield, invisible but effective. Today it can be a pendant, a talisman, or just a pinch of salt and a piece of paper in your pocket. It's not because we're superstitious. It's because we're conscious. We understand the power of intention and the power of memory that lives in these simple rituals. Indeed, in every generation of the Greeks, salt was not only a seasoning, but also a reminder. You are connected to the world. You're part of history. You're not alone. And today, when the world has become so fast, salt can restore our sense of peace and presence. Imagine how your morning changes if you cook breakfast with intent. You put salt in it and you think, "May this day be clear. May it have taste, meaning, and joy." Is it magic? Yes. Magic is attention to detail. We look for meaning in big things, career, money, recognition. And the ancients knew that the meaning is in the small. In a crumb of salt on bread, in a kind word in the morning, in a smile at the door. It is these little things that keep the world going, and it is from them that our strength consists. One wise man said, "If you don't know how to give thanks for the salt on the table, you won't know the taste of life." This phrase sounds like a challenge, as a reminder, and as a key to another reality, in which even the everyday becomes sacred. So why not take a step towards this reality? Why not remember that our house is a temple, that our food is a gift, that even salt is part of the great dance of life, in which we all play an important role. The ancient Greeks often said that salt is the tears of the earth. It's a beautiful and profound metaphor. After all, tears can be bitter and cleansing, and salt carries exactly this duality. It enlivens and at the same time repels. It's like a lesson. Sometimes it hurts, but it makes sense. In the temples of Athens, salt was used as part of sacred rituals. It was sprinkled on the altar before the start of the ritual. Thus, they called for purity and asked the gods to witness what was happening. Salt was the link between heaven and earth, between man and the higher will. These days, you can take a note. When you start something new, a project, a conversation, meditation, imagine salt in the center as a symbol of honesty, simplicity, and depth. Let her remind you that all great things begin with small things. The Greeks respected salt so much that it was considered a gift from the gods. One legend says that Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, and a spring of salt water burst out of the rock as a reminder that strength and food can be combined. This understanding has reached the kitchen. Greek housewives never added salt automatically. They did it with intent. Even when cooking fish, a symbol of blessing, salt was added like a prayer. Let him saturate the body and purify the soul. Why don't we make cooking a sacred process? We can turn cooking into a ritual of love, gratitude, and caring. Candles and music are not needed. Just pay attention. Just salt, and everything changes. Salt in Greek culture was a marker of well-being, not just because it's expensive. It's because she's important. A house with salt is a house with taste of life. They know how to rejoice, share, and appreciate. A philosopher said, "A man without salt is like a tree without roots." He didn't mean seasoning, but a man without foundations, without memory, without traditions. Salt is the root. This is a fulcrum, thanks to which we do not lose ourselves in the flow of time. In this sense, salt is like an anchor. It keeps us in place when everything around us is unstable. She says, go back to the simple. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you came from. And in moments of anxiety, loneliness, panic, you can just take a pinch of salt in your palm. Feel its texture. Think about the ancients who also held it in their hands. That thousands of years ago, someone was also looking for support. And I found it. Maybe it is through salt that eternity speaks to us. He speaks in a simple crystal language without further ado. No noise, just the taste, just the gist, only the depth. It is no coincidence that in Greek culture there was a tradition. When a child tastes solid food for the first time, he is given bread with salt. It is a symbol of the beginning of life, acceptance into the world. It's like they're saying, now you're part of this story. Keep her safe. We can revive these traditions in the family, in everyday life, in thoughts, not to be like the ancients, but to be closer to oneself, because there is wisdom hidden in these simple actions that can support us in the most difficult moments. Every time you see salt on the table, smile. It's not just a spice, it's a symbol, it's a prayer, it's an ancient voice whispering, you're home, everything's fine, you're not alone. And the next time you sprinkle salt, don't be alarmed. Don't rush to swipe it away. Say, let everything that gets in the way go away. Let only the main thing remain. And look at how the atmosphere is changing. Here it is, the living magic of everyday life. In the Greek tradition, salt was sometimes put in a guest's shoes if it was suspected that he had come with ill intentions. It was believed that the salt would take away his shadow, clear the trail. It was a quiet rite, inconspicuous, but powerful. This gesture shows that protection does not have to be loud. Sometimes it's as delicate as breathing. Sometimes just one crystal is enough to feel calm. In the houses of the sages, salt was always placed in the center of the table next to bread and wine. It wasn't about the food, it was the altar of everyday life. Everything a person needs, food, joy, truth, we should remind ourselves our kitchen is also a temple. A miracle is happening there. There we combine matter with energy, taste with attention, care with intention. And when we salt our food, let it be a gesture of gratitude for the land, for the hands, for the time, for the fact that we have the opportunity to eat, for having someone to share it with. Salt brings us back to simplicity, and simplicity is a luxury that we often miss in the race. But simplicity is the key to balance, to peace of mind. In one of Homer's hymns, there are lines about how the heroes ate food with salt before the battle. It was as if this crystalline element gave them strength. They ate and prayed. They knew that taste wasn't just about enjoyment, it was about attitude. Maybe we should have small rituals before the battles of life, an interview, a difficult conversation, an important choice. A pinch of salt and water, breath, exhale, intention, and go ahead. The Greeks also used salt to purify space. They sprinkled it on the threshold of the house to ward off bad energy, especially in the days after storms or conflicts. It was a way of saying, I choose the world. I choose the light. Salt doesn't argue. She doesn't scream. It's just there. She cleanses with her presence. A human can do the same. To be like salt is not to prove, but to illuminate. In the philosophy of the Stoics, which was also born on Greek soil, there is an idea of an inner center, eudaimonia, harmony with oneself. Salt can be her metaphor, constant, simple, honest. It's not a mask, it's the point. At the moment of alarm, take salt. Tell yourself, I'm here, I'm in the body, I'm in the moment. This simple action can be an anchor in a storm of emotions. As a reminder, everything will pass and you will stay. The ancients knew that magic does not live in miracles, but in awareness. And if we realize the salt, we are one step closer to the mystery. We see a miracle in everyday life. That's why they were so careful of salt. Not as a thing, but as a meaning, like a crystal in which centuries have frozen, as a thread connecting generations, rituals, and destinies. And today, in our age of technology and speed, we can regain this knowledge just by looking at the salt shaker in the kitchen and saying, I remember, I know, I live consciously. In Greek settlements on the Aegean Islands, salt was stored in cloth bags with embroidered protection symbols, eyes, snakes, and stars. These bags were hung at the entrance to the house as amulets. Today, we would say, it's just a decoration. But for them, it was magic. Each such pouch was charged not only with salt, but also with memory, the name of the mother who embroidered the pattern, the cloth that the child's hands touched. It was a treasure, invisible to the eye, but bright to the heart. Salt united generations. When the girl got married, her mother gave her a small bag of salt. May there always be taste, warmth, and protection in your house. This gesture was stronger than many words. Even in temples where great rites were performed, salt was obligatory. It was mixed with wine and brought to the altar. Her power was recognized along with her prayers. The sages said, salt is water's memory of the sun. This poetic explanation conveys the essence deeply. Salt is born from the combination of the elements. She is the crystal of union, the crystal of the world's trust in itself. For the ancient man, there was no gap between magic and life. The salt was in the plate, in the words, in the gestures, and it was sacred, not because of the special ceremony, but because of the special treatment. We should learn from them. After all, it is this attitude to everyday life that gives us strength. It makes us not just alive, but alive. A simple ritual. At dawn, take a pinch of salt, light a candle, tell yourself, I'm safe, I'm on my way. It's not magic, it's a reminder, and it works. In the evening, before going to bed, dissolve salt in water and wash your face. Let all the excess go. Say, I'm letting go. I am being cleansed. Let the body feel the care and the soul, the silence. Such gestures create a bridge between the inner and the outer, between the chaos of the world and your personal peace. And you are building this bridge. Salt is a union of simplicity and strength. There is no pathos in it, just the gist. And if you learn to see this essence in everyday life, you will become the magician of your life, not by magic, but by mindfulness. Salt teaches us, not all great things are loud. Sometimes the most important thing comes in the form of a pinch, and that's enough to change everything. The ancient Greeks did not separate life from ritual. Every day was part of a sacred cycle. And we can do the same if we choose to see, feel, remember. In every lunch, in every morning, in every gesture, you can weave light. Salt can be your reminder, your amulet, your anchor. In an age of anxiety and flight, we can find support in the simple, in salt, in myself, in the memory of the ancestors. And then everyday life becomes a mystery, and life is art. If this video resonated with your heart, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if we get 1,000 likes, I'll prepare a new video about how cleansing rituals with water and herbs were used in ancient magic, and why the ancient Greeks believed that water could not only wash the body, but also relieve heaviness from the soul. Write in the comments if you feel that your house has its own magic. Maybe it's in the salt, or maybe in the water you drink. We have something to remember and something to share.